MikeFarris, and we still want to do that. Mike is an original co-author of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. He is one of the fellows that worked on this for some of our states to the north of us, and he is a constitutional lawyer, head of the Convention of States Project, widely known for leadership in homeschooling, religious freedom. He is also chancellor of Patrick Henry College. Good morning, MikeFarris. How are you, sir?
Gentlemen, it's good to be with you.
Thank you for coming on board. The Supreme Court, we've had some fun with the Supreme Court in the last week. It's been fun for everybody, I guess, to read through this. What have they done to us here?
They've taken away the two core ideas that were in the Declaration of Independence. We said we were leaving George III because he was denying the basic rights of Englishmen, and secondly, he was denying American self-government. And the Supreme Court's managed to do both of those things. Because in the self-government side, self-government means we elect legislators who make the law. The President is not supposed to make law. The Supreme Court's not supposed to make law. And yet millions of people have said, well, the Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage. Well, yeah, that's what they purported to do. And that's making law. They are changing the law of the United States. Nobody can reasonably contend that in 1868, when Congress proposed and state legislators ratified the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, that the original meaning of that clause was to legalize same-sex marriage, and all of a sudden it was just laying there dormant for 125 years or something, and all of a sudden we just discovered it. You know, it's nonsense. They changed the law on us, and they're violating the principle of self-government. And our founders thought that if you violate the principle of self-government, you're a tyrant.
Mike, I've got to ask you, and I don't mean to sound paranoid or a conspiracy theorist, but is the action of the government in this case really more insidious than just, we want to be fair with everybody? Is it really to break up the churches?
Well, I think it's, there's mixed motives here. I think breaking up marriage is part of the motive. I think the movement is seeking to bring about same-sex marriage is really seeking to destroy the institution of marriage. And there's no doubt that there's going to be a serious religious freedom consequence for this. A friend in Iowa yesterday told me that 2 churches were called immediately after the decision, and then 24 hours of the decision, saying, we want to know your policy on same-sex weddings in your church. What they were clearly doing was looking for targets for lawsuits and for harassment. And so and there was an interchange in the Supreme Court's oral argument between Justice Alito and the Solicitor General Donald Borelli, and that debate spilled over into the opinions, where it's pretty clear that there's going to be consequences, religious freedom denials to those of us who don't want to go along with this. At Patrick Henry College, we won't go along with this. And the threat will be we'll lose our tax-exempt status if we do that. And so people will be punished. Churches will be punished. And many other people will be punished for refusing to go along with it.
I know some of the smaller churches, that's going to have a big impact. Larger organizations, though, and a number of Christian friends that I know have just stepped up and said, well, hey, okay, we'll forget the tax-exempt thing. That's fine. If this is what we have to do, it's what we have to do. But this is where we're going to stand.
And that's what we should do. But there are twists and turns to that. At Patrick Henry College, a lot of the scholarship money that we get is from Christian foundations. Private people have done well in life. They created these private foundations to give big gifts to the scholarship fund. For those people, you cannot just buck up and give us the money. Those private foundations, it is illegal for them. It's not a choice. They can't just pay the tax. It's illegal for them to distribute the money to us from a foundation, and that's done to dry up. Now, for a church, churches generally just get money from the regular income of their people, their members of the church. And there we can just buck up and say, okay, I don't care if I get a tax exemption or not. But for people that get money from private foundations, it's going to be a big deal. And it's designed to shut people down. Shut colleges like Patrick Henry that want to teach kids the truth. We're going to be shut down.
Well, and you said a moment ago, MikeFarris, our guest this morning, co-author of Religious Freedom Restoration Act. You said a moment ago that you felt like it was going to tear down marriage, and what would be the validation? Why would someone on the left or anybody in those circles think that was a good idea? I mean, even at its, I can't even imagine that.
Well, in the literature, there are people who've said that. I mean, they've said it out loud. But then you see the reaction from some people on the right. They say, well, if that's going to be the case, let's just get rid of the institution of marriage. Right. And people, good people have said that to me, and I say, well, do you understand what that means? That means that if a wife, let's say we just put marriage in the church. There's no such thing as legal marriage anymore, which a lot of people are talking about. Yeah. And if that's the case, the husband dies. Well, if you're not married legally, and there's property, it doesn't go to the wife. They're not related. It'll go to the brothers and sisters and parents of the man. If you have a child, the reason that all kids born in marriage are automatically deemed the children of the dad is because there's a legal rule that the children born in a married couple, the man is the father, until there's some proof to the contrary. Well, you have to go through paternity actions every time. If you're arrested in a criminal case, the husband cannot be called to testify against the wife and vice versa. But if you're just living together, they can make you testify against each other. There are thousands of rules because we have held marriage in honor. And we've made a lot of rules in over hundreds of years that result from holding marriage in honor. And what we're saying now, if we can't hold marriage in honor anymore, a whole bunch of our legal system and our political system is going to have to change. And that's really, people are going to say, I can't hold this in honor, so let's just take down the institution of marriage. I think that there's some definite cause and effect here.
There are two pillars, certainly, in our society. One would have to be marriage, the family. The other would certainly have to be the church. And it seems like these two supporting underpinnings are being eroded by this action.
You've nailed it. That's exactly right. And that continues the flow. There's something fundamental going on here that is changing the nature of America. And I don't know about you guys, but just the onslaught, the moral onslaught, and the celebrations that have gone on, and the viciousness of the celebrations. On this one Facebook page, I saw that this person had the gay roller, and it was like a steamroller, and it showed them crushing people, not winning a debate, not winning legal rights for themselves. They're crushing people who disagree with them, and that's what's going on. I feel like I'm a stranger living in a strange land more than I've ever felt in my life.
And when you have the President of the United States, decorating the White House in rainbow colors, and then so is it any suspicion that there would not be a photo that came out yesterday? It's been going around Facebook. You probably have seen it as well, Mike. Yeah. Of guys pulling up a flag in the position that they did on Iwo Jima, the rainbow flag, and they're trying to prop up this flag on a hill like the rainbow flag and take a picture of this. There have been in fact, there was a number of people. Jennifer Aniston was one of them, one of the Hollywood came out and says, I can't believe you're doing this. This is a total disrespect for the men and women of our armed forces. And, come on, let's bring this back down to reality. And the people I'm hearing and seeing on Facebook, we've seen people who said, it's really not going to affect us. It has no difference to my life if two guys want to get married or two women want to get married. And I'm glad you're pointing out this morning, Mike, a lot of the legal ramifications. The thing that bothers me, we can talk about the moralistic value of it all day long. In fact, we are having a pastor on tomorrow that will help with some of that. But the fact that several states had already voted against this, and that was just wiped off the books. Tell me about that.
Well, that's exactly right. The very first same-sex marriage decision ever in this country was the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts. And in that case, they said marriage is a relationship between two spouses and an approving state. So this is not about whether people can go have a ceremony in some progressive church, or they can eat cake together, or call each other husband and wife, or wife and wife, or whatever they want to call themselves. It doesn't mean people can't live together. Go do those things and be happy among yourself.
Well,
this is about state approval. And state approval is, who's the state? Well, the people are the state. This is about whether or not we, as a people, have to approve. Well, how do we decide what marriages we're going to approve? Are we going to approve marriages between brothers and sisters, between a 60-year-old man and a 9-year-old girl? Which marriages are we going to approve? Who decides? And the answer of who decides is we do that through the democratic process. In this, there's Republican form of government, which is when we have legislators, and there's direct democracy where we have ballot initiatives. And in this case, it was mostly direct democracy. People all over the country, millions and millions of people in 32 states, voted through direct democracy to say, we want to put our approval on traditional marriage. And the Supreme Court said, no, you're going to be forced to put your approval on same-sex marriage, whether you agree with it or not. And that's not freedom of choice. That's coercion of choice. That's not democracy in action. That's coercion in action. And it has nothing to do with democratic values. It has nothing to do with the Constitution of the United States. It has everything to do with 5 lawyer politicians in black robes coercing the rest of us to go along with their agenda.
But, Mike, relative to just having cake together or whatever, hey, you can't get Social Security benefits, you can't inherit property because you're not legally married.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it is a tangle mess. Do you see any
hope?
No, there's nothing to do with this until the next administration comes in, is there? Or can you even do it then?
Well, there are a few things that you could do with the next administration, but the solution to this, the only realistic solution to this, is through the Convention of States process, because that means the states can solve the abuse of power by the federal government. In Article 5 of the Constitution, there's a provision that was given to us. George Mason stood up on the floor of the Constitutional Convention and said, when the federal government abuses its authority, the states need to have the ability to put new checks and balances on the Supreme Court, on the federal government, rather, including the Supreme Court. Right. They didn't single the court out, but that certainly applies here. Certainly. The Supreme Court has abused its authority. There's an application for such a convention that has passed 4 states already. It passed Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and Alaska. In 11 states this year, it passed one house. You have the House Senate, like the Oklahoma Senate. It was one of the houses in the Missouri Senate. It passed, but didn't pass the House in either of those states yet this year. And so, and their sessions are done for the year. So we are in the process. I'm in the process of trying to call an amendments convention under Article 5 to rein in the abuse of power by the federal government. And the way we've written it, it would include the ability to restrain the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court's going to take down our liberties, we need to have better checks and balances on the Supreme Court. And that's never, ever, ever going to come from Washington, D.C. The states have got to do it. The states have the power, and it's time to use it.
Mike, preach on, buddy, and I hope you get to spend a lot of time talking about that all over the country today. I thank you. Thank you much for taking your time to be here with us today.
You're welcome.
MikeFarris, News Talk, KCRS.
Defending the Constitution with the voice of West Texas. This is